All right. So,
Cool. So with the fact that we're a little bit of a small group today, which is totally fine, that's actually a huge benefit for those of you who are here. I want to then make sure that this is super relevant to you guys. So if you guys want to put in the chat, what is the number one thing that you have the biggest question about with chatbots? And then I will, if it's just like an easy question and I can show you, I'll do that. But also if it's something that is relevant for everybody or that multiple people are saying, yeah, I want to know this, then I can dive in and do a lot of that. But I'm trying to think of any updates recently in the last month or so regarding chatbots. One thing, and I don't know if this is, again, it might not apply for some of you, but maybe if it's a client that it might apply to, but this is like kind of breaking as of like this last week, that the Facebook developer changelog shows that they're now allowing comment to messenger from group posts, which has never been the case. They're opening that connectivity with the API. So that is pretty awesome for people who have groups. And if maybe one of your lead generation functionalities is using a group to get leads, then that could be really helpful. I haven't tested it yet because ManyChat hasn't come out saying that it's a thing yet for the platform, because one thing is they are a Meta partner when it comes to Messenger and Instagram DM automation. So they're usually in the know ahead of time before something is released, and they will usually, announce that they are, because they have to change stuff on their platform to connect with. But somebody I'm connected with said that they actually got a comment reply to Messenger from a group post today. So it might have just how Facebook decided to turn on the API. It might be just an automatic thing. So that's a great feature or possible feature. But besides that, I think the other big thing is obviously utilizing Instagram DMs for lead generation is super important. So if you're not using Instagram yet, of course, if your audience or your prospects are on Instagram, then I would suggest using it. If they're not, then I wouldn't use it because it's kind of a waste. But if they are there, then I highly suggest that you use it because of the huge capabilities when it comes to story replies and reels, just because Instagram has a greater ability for organic reach. Of course, using paid ads to DMs is always an option, but utilizing organic means to get people to your chatbot is super valuable. So it's only with story reply and reels, people replying to reels, those are only right now on Instagram. So even if you have if you post a story on Instagram and you share it also to your Facebook business page, and let's say you say, comment with, or have a button there with it where they reply, it won't fire off. So with the reels, the stories, if they reply to the story and your chatbot is connected to both Messenger and Instagram, it will fire off. But with reels, it won't. So keep that in mind. Hopefully, though, Facebook will, or Meta will change that. So okay, does anybody have any specific things they are wanting to have me go over with chatbots? If not, I will just I could share my screen and go into some I can actually, one thing I can talk about is follow-up messaging in different ways you can do that. Let's see here. Let me share screen.
Oh, will not let you?
Need to have it. Yeah. Need to have it enabled.
It's like it's always auto checked, but we have to toggle it. I don't know. It's a weird Zoom bug.
Yeah. Oh yeah, always got the bug.
I had a thing happen. We had a challenge with the closed deals team last month, and I messed up. So it was like you know how those go. It's like a webinar, but for days on. So it's like a, fun and exciting, but also stressful because it's a whole
Yeah,
production. So where I jumped in like after the first day started to help that team out. And so uh, I jump in and I'm adjusting. Dan, it was the first time Dan, I think, had done a live. Yeah, it was. It was the first time he had done a live challenge without anybody in person helping.
yeah.
So there
Oh,
was like no one handling, making the screen bigger and smaller. And I adjusted a bunch of settings so he could see people's names. And then we realized when the recording, someone went to go pull a copy of the recording from Zoom and it was in gallery view. So it was just squares. And we
oh
were gonna,
no.
okay, so we like a total panic ensues because Zoom, it's like I've been doing this for years, so I know I didn't like I'm just sitting here thinking like how I couldn't have. Anyways, it was just a weird
Yeah.
Zoom with the download, and so you could go back and change. It was insane, but we figured it
Oh
out,
my
thank God.
gosh.
But it's one of those things where you just get you figure it out as you go that these things are buggy, love them and hate them at the same time.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, and also like last week, or week before, maybe about a week before, there was a glitch with Instagram's API, and it caused it was weird. It wasn't all of the Instagram chatbot. It was just some of them. Like actually, I only had of all my clients, I only had one that it was affected. That just all the automations like pretty much stopped. So
Weird.
uh, yeah. So I guess also just as an FYI, because it's always good for troubleshooting. If you ever have if you're using ManyChat and you ever have your bot just kind of stop working or you're not sure what's happening, the first thing you want to do is just go under settings, and then go under the channel. So whether that's Instagram or Messenger mainly, and then you just go there and then you click down here and you click refresh permissions, and then that will try to make that connection reconnected. Unfortunately, with it being an API error on Instagram's side, it was, it wasn't necessarily the bot not connecting, but sometimes they, meta developers, they change things, and roll things out, and then there's a, unintended consequence that they don't think about or they don't do a test beforehand, that causes issues. But so if you ever have an issue with your bot, make sure you just go under there to refresh permissions, and then and then check and see if it fixes it. If not, definitely utilizing ManyChat support, or posting in their group or whatever is super helpful too. So also if you test it too, so if you go to your own bot and you type in the keyword, that if it fires, then it's not an issue with the connection. Obviously, it's something else, maybe with the flow or with your conditions. I mean, there can be a lot of quote unquote user error that happens. But so with what I'm going to show you guys today, and kind of dive in a little bit, is with reminder and follow-up messaging. So there's a couple different ways to do it, and also the benefits obviously are, like a lot of people, they have a lead magnet on a landing page, right? So they go to your landing page and they start filling it out, and let's say they get distracted, or whatever, and they don't complete it. The only real reason or way that you can actually reach them again would be through retargeting ads. And even then, obviously it will cost you more money to do retargeting ads, and then also it's not 100%, that they'll go back to the page. So when I have people say, oh, well, I have a lead magnet on the landing page, I'm like, well, here's the benefits of doing it through a chatbot instead, is that you have that one-on-one connection with them and can send them a direct message if they don't complete the intended step. On top of that, you can do follow-up messaging after they take the action. Let's say, they download the lead magnet in this case, where you can follow up with them. So when you're asking people for information for like a lead magnet, you want to use the user input field, and this is to ask them for usually email. You can also ask for a phone number, but if we're in this instance doing like a lead magnet, I'm sure you guys understand that, you got to make sure that the gift that you're giving is worth the ask. So we want to make sure that, if you're just doing a lead magnet, that they, they might not feel like they'd like to provide their phone number to just get a PDF. The other thing that is coming that's not available on all bots yet, I was told it should be within the next quarter, is the Instagram subscription list. They're actually going to, Facebook has changed, or Meta changing the name of it to marketing messages. So pretty much what that is people can then opt in. It's like the Messenger one. So right now Messenger has it, but Instagram doesn't. But it's this Messenger list and allows you to send messages to people outside of 24 hours of them last engaging with your chatbot. So it's now in beta for Instagram. And it's making it for one of my clients that like we're doing a 5-day challenge right now, and all of her following is mainly on Instagram. It's a night and day difference compared to going through Instagram, collecting SMS, and then having them receive SMS. But of course, you know, SMS is still super high converting, but then you're paying for the SMS. So
How does it's just
also,
out of curiosity,
yeah,
when you're having them select that, right? Have them opt in. How's your client positioning that? Is it like don't miss and don't miss updates, or how exactly are you motivating people on the front end to click that?
yeah. So it depends on what the offer is. So, like for example, with the 5-day challenge, it's obviously saying, hey, do you want to get notified? You know, don't miss any of the notifications of when I go live for each of the challenge. So, I mean, for an event, it's pretty self-explanatory where it's like, okay, this makes sense. Now, when you're just wanting to get them to opt into a list for future messages, and that's the other thing is you want to make sure that your messenger list, you have to have a messenger list or messenger, or I guess Instagram DM list too, the same thing. But you want to have your the name of it. Let's see if it'll. Oh, it makes me have to type it in, so I'll just put test for now. So you want to make sure that the description that you have here matches what you're wanting to send them. So my suggestion is first, don't be. I mean, it's good to be specific for the user, but if you can make it kind of like not too specific, but not too broad, because if you're sending out messages that don't match what your list is, then it could get flagged by Meta. So just keeping that in mind. But even though it says be as specific as possible, sometimes I just say, like update or something along those lines. So then that way it does give some wiggle room a bit on that. But for something that's not like an event, things I've used is saying get future updates, or you can even make it so they feel like they're being part of a special group, calling it, hey, to receive my special tips and, whatever for my VIP people, just click the get messages button below. So making it is like a club of some sort, that you're just saying, if you opt into this, you'll get, special discounts or special things, that they can get. Another thing I've done is for a client that's very info specific, that he's an expert in, is providing weekly tips and suggestions. So people who opt into her chatbot, into her subscription list, they just receive weekly. It's actually every 4 to 5 days, but tips and other things that she, motivational quotes, things like that, just things that are helpful. And the benefit of that, besides just being able to engage and keeping you top of mind, is it also builds more authority and positions you more as the expert because you're providing this information. And the cool thing is, when you set that up, is you can just put it into a sequence, and then it just delivers X number of days, right? So then anybody who enters that, they'll just start at the beginning. So and then they'll just go through that, and that's really a great way to keep people engaged. And then you could also use that for other updates, or like let's say you have a webinar that you're going to do, or a workshop, then you can use that as a broadcast to let everybody know, like, hey, I'm going to be giving a ton of tips and suggestions. So and then that allows you to send it to them. Because right now, after 24 hours, really the only way to reach them besides that is paid messaging, and that really sucks. It's like almost not useful because there's just no way to reach them if because you don't reach 100% um, of your audience that way. So because Facebook treats it like an ad, and so it doesn't deliver to everybody in your audience, just like an ad doesn't. And also, it doesn't deliver right away. It can take up to 72 hours to deliver, and it's like 40% of the audience. So it's really not um, conducive. So that's where these messenger lists are super exciting because it reaches everybody. But then also keep in mind, they're changing the name of them, like I said, to marketing lists. So if you use WhatsApp marketing at all for business, you know that, obviously Meta owns WhatsApp. You can send messages, WhatsApp messages to your subscribers outside of 24 hours. You pay for it per message, just like SMS. But the content or the type of message that you're sending dictates the price per message. So right now, messenger lists inside of Messenger and Instagram DM are free, but I would put money on the fact that they're going to start charging for that at some point. So if you're utilizing Messenger right now, definitely make use of that as much as possible. And then same with Instagram. But of course, once they do charge for it, it's like any other, business expense where you determine the ROI and you just get better at it. So to make the ROI better. And then I'm sure Meta is going to realize they're going to be slightly competing with SMS. So, or not slightly, they will be. So it'll be interesting to see the pricing model that they choose for that in comparison. So that's kind of a tangent, but that's definitely something to utilize if you're not already to be able to reach them outside of 24 hours. But for those who opt in to your lead magnet, for example, like I said, you do have 24 hours to send any automation to them. So the goal is to keep them going through your funnel inside of your chatbot and maximize that 24-hour window as much as possible with even the goal, depending on what the end of your funnel looks like, your sub funnel, but your full funnel, to try and keep them engaging every, once a day or something. And then that way you can continue to reach them, even if they haven't opted into a subscription list. So, but let me show you here with the reminder messages. So with the reminder messages, you're using a user input. So let's say you're asking them for their email, and then this is where you put in the email. And it will save it to the system field and opt them into email. Of course, if you're not using ManyChat for your email service, then you'll want to, connect this to, you can connect it to Zapier through a trigger or Zap. There's also integrations with, I don't know if ConvertKit, ActiveCampaign, HubSpot. There's some other ones too. So if you use one of those, and you can directly connect. The one downside is like ActiveCampaign, for example, only has the ability to add a contact and then, but not add any text. So I have to use Zapier for that. So Zapier is definitely a useful thing with your chatbot for sure for things like that. But let's say for their email and that you have this set up. So the thing here for the reminder messages, you can have where the user input expires after 23 hours. So of course, you ask them for their email. You don't want to wait almost a whole day to follow up with them. So a lot of times what I do is I change this. There we go. To like, maybe like 15 minutes. I've played around with it. I've gone anywhere between, 5 minutes and even an hour, depending on what I'm asking for. But also, so you have to weigh out looking needy, or I guess for lack of a better word. If you're like saying, hey, you didn't give your email, it's like they can sometimes get annoying. Or having it too long and then they just read it and they don't respond. The other thing though to keep in mind, I would suggest not doing like 12 hours, because if they're, let's say, going through here at like 2 a.m., then they'll get it at 2 p.m., then they'll get it at 2 a.m. So I have had a few times where even if it was delayed it was like a follow-up message that was delayed by like 5 hours, it went to somebody in the middle of the night and they complained. They're like, why are you messaging me why don't you sleep? Like it's automation. But yeah, so keeping in mind that it might come back to them or they might get a message in the middle of the night. So you definitely don't want that to be happening. And I can show you too with the follow-up post delivery of the lead magnet of a way that you can make it so that the bot will only respond during daylight hours. Hopefully they're not, a night shift worker because then they'll be in the middle of their day or their night. But anyway, so you have it set for 15 minutes. And then for the reminder message, this is where this comes into play here. And then that's where you can say, you can either ask it again with another user input, or sometimes what I put in is I just ask them, are you still interested? And then giving them buttons. So if you give them these buttons, if you say yes or no here, um, then the issue is if they respond, it takes them out of the automation. So like if they respond with yes, or they respond with their email, it just sits there because it's not looking for that. What you could do instead is, instead of the static button, you can do the quick replies, and you can do yes or no here. And then if they don't click one of these, or they try and respond with something else, you can turn this on and it will say, please tap one of the options below. So this is really important because it will help you keep your users inside of going through your chatbot flow, because that's one of the biggest things is you build a chatbot and I've built so many since 2017. I've pretty much seen it all. And this feature is super, well, newer within the last year or so, but it's been much needed because you try to come up with all the possible ways that people might react or respond, or you try to come up with foolproof ways that people will just continue going the way you want them to go. And there's always somebody that says or does something that you just were not expecting. And then you have to, and they get out of the automation when they could have just followed directions and kept going along and you wouldn't have had to worry about it. But this is really helpful because this will send them the reminder message, if they try and type in something, say, please tap on the options below. So that's helpful. And then if they say yes, then you can go back to the email. And then let's say you're, the other thing too with Instagram, and I learned this just recently too, so this little nugget, I was getting really frustrated because I'm like, okay, well, Instagram, most people have their username, which is not their first, they have usernames, and Facebook, there's no username. You have the first name already. So one thing that I was doing was I was putting in here, looking to see if under Instagram, if they have, I would just go if first name has any value. And if it didn't, then I would ask them what their name was. And so I'd be like, hey, great to meet you, what's your first name? And then what you can do is you can then save it here. Also as an FYI, if you do it this way, sometimes people will say something else. They see the question, but they try to answer something else. Like for a free training, for example, with a client, I asked this question. They're like, I want to know what the free training is about, or tell me more about what's in the training or something. And it says, okay, great. Tell me more what's in the training. It's like, yeah. So that's definitely something that could happen with this if you ask for first name. So just as an FYI, the way to fix that would pretty much the way I have it. I have a external request connected to the API and a custom field. So if it puts in the wrong name, I just put it into the custom field and it resets the first name. So, but that's a little bit more of an advanced thing. But just saying that there is a way to fix it if need be. But the thing is, with this first name that has any value, I would see that people were going through it who had a first name on their profile, but it was not registering as first name in the chatbot. I'm thinking there was something wrong with the bot, with the backend API, that was not registering that the person had the first name. And through ManyChat support, it was amazing between them and me trying to troubleshoot what was going on. Come to find out, there's a lot of people who put their username as their first and last name, but they don't put their first and last name into the fields for Instagram. So as an FYI, that might be the case. And so if you see that when you're trying to do it this way, and you're like, there's a bunch of people who have their first name and it's still asking them for the first name, that's why. But of course, with Instagram, it's important to have the first name. At least I feel if you're collecting emails and you're adding them to an email list, it makes more sense, or just for better follow up, that if you're responding and referring to them with their first name versus their Instagram handle, that that would be a better user experience. So I have no statistical reasoning to back that up, but I just would feel like if someone was saying my first name versus my username from Instagram, that it just have a better response. So but yeah, so when you can ask them for their first name and then their email, and then send it off to your email service provider, whatever that is. And then again, here's another reminder message where if they don't reply with the first name, there's actually two things you could do. You could, let's say this one, we'll just do like 5 minutes. Where's that go? Okay, there we go. After 5 minutes, if they don't reply with their first name, maybe you're fine with using their username. So then you can just, after 5 minutes, just ask them for their email and just go to the next one. So you don't have to have a message to remind them about it, but it's nice if you want to, or you can have the reminder message if they don't reply to that. Like for example, if you have it this way, where it's asking if they're still interested, and if they don't reply yes or no, then you can have it be follow up if contact has not engaged, and you can do the same thing, like let's say 1 hour after that, then it goes to the next one. So if they don't respond to this one, there's a good chance that maybe they've just kind of checked out, but at least it gives you that option to give them a nudge. But if they don't say anything, then take them to the next step. And again, this is not possible on a landing page. You can't do all this cool, follow-up pieces and have it dynamic based off of, certain indicators. So just keep that in mind, but that's another aspect that you can utilize with the reminder messages. So let's say here, like with the lead magnet, So with Instagram, as you can see here, there's no option to add a file to the flow, which is actually, I think, a better situation, because with Messenger, you can add a file, and it will upload to to the flow itself, but there's no way to know if they clicked or not, if they clicked on it and downloaded it. So with Instagram, without that functionality, what I do is I actually just upload it to like Google Drive or Dropbox, and then you can add the URL here for them to click. And then the benefit of that is then you can add an action step of a tag, and that they like clicked, and then it's a irresistible freebie. So they clicked on it, and then that way and here's where that follow-up comes up after they've got. So after that, you can do a smart delay. And again, after they've responded here with their email, that starts the timer for 24 hours. Them clicking on this lead magnet button does not affect the 24-hour window whatsoever, because it does not cause the bot to have to send a response. They're not sending engagement into the chat. They are just clicking to a website. So keep that in mind, because I've had people say, well, they clicked to get my lead magnet, and I can see when they clicked it, and it was just a couple hours ago, and it was 2 days when they last opted in. I'm like, well, because they haven't engaged in the chat specifically to send a message to reopen that 24-hour window. So when you have your smart delay, this is going to be the smart delay from when they receive that message. So that's where, if you have it, let's say an hour, and then what you want to do is then you can have a condition looking to see, did they click that lead magnet or not? So that's where finding out if the tag, if they have it, is this irresistible freebie. And if it is, then you can send a specific message that, asks them, what did you think of the freebie? So that way the messaging is relevant. That they've clicked it. on the other hand, you can say, you can go one of two ways. You can do the same thing where it's like, hey, what did you think of the freebie? If you didn't get a chance to download it yet, here it is again. Or it can be a direct follow up that says, don't forget to click the button above, or you can redo it. You can end up going like this and putting it here again and saying this here. Oops, there we go. And they went to the above. Okay, there we go. Then that way it's a reminder message to get them to click. The other thing you can do then obviously is you can continue down the rabbit hole of the reminder messages and then do a follow-up with them again. If they haven't clicked, then you can duplicate this. There we go. And then do the same thing and then have another one, where then like, oh, what did you think of the freebie? And then if they didn't click, then you can either just think, like, hey, or you can just say, are you still interested? I'm laughing because one of my clients, this is actually very ingenious and it's worked. So I'm passing along this strategy. I didn't come up with this, but she did, and it's pretty hilarious. So she, instead of saying anything about, or after like, let's say 2 times of follow-up, then what she does is she has just an image of SpongeBob, of Squidward looking at SpongeBob through like blinds, and it says like, waiting for you to respond to me or something like that. And it's
Love it.
such a, I know, and it's such a pattern interrupt that there's been people who have responded like LOL and they say, sorry, I've been busy or whatever, when they haven't responded to any of the other follow-up messages before. So it's always kind of a good thing to, change it up, memes, gifts, things like that, that really have people think outside the box. The other thing you can do, and this is just as a FYI too, is following up with somebody, or this is a use case of when you can use a video. So whenever I have clients wanting to use video in their chatbot, I kind of cringe because of 2 things. One, the maximum file size you can use is 25 megabytes. So it's a pretty short video. 2, even if it's under 25 megabytes, it takes forever to load. So like, let's say you had a message that someone clicked saying, send me the video, and then you send it, they're going to be sitting there waiting. Sometimes it's for minutes and it just takes forever. So my suggestion is, if you're going to send any sort of video to people, have it be sent when they're not expecting it. So like in this case where, you're waiting an hour and then you can send it, then they'll just receive it and then be able to watch it there. But that's also where it's personalized too, in a way where you're like, hey, I just want to send you this quick video. Wanted to let you know, about this lead magnet, XYZ, things like that. But again, having it where they're not expecting the message, and then that way it can just send when it finishes loading and sending. You can also do an audio message, same premise though, where it's only 25 megabytes. So make sure that the amount of the size of the file is under 25 megabytes. And then also, and I know I answered this question for Dan specifically, and I'm forgetting now, and I wish I would have looked it up, but what I told him, because I tested it out. But for the file format for audio for Instagram, I think it has to be, you can't just upload whatever your, like an iPhone uploads it as, which I don't remember if it's an MP3 or MP4, but whatever one that uploads as, it has to be the other one. From what I was testing. So if you try to upload an audio file and it doesn't work, switch it to the other file type that you're trying to upload it as. Obviously I don't do a lot of audio uploads, but Dan was asking about it. I'm like, oh, let me figure it out. And so I did. It's been a while since I did that, but audio files are also a useful follow-up strategy to get people to, it just gives that extra, it's also a type of, pattern interrupt where they're so used to just, messages, text messages coming through, that having an audio file or a video file, can change that up a bit and get them to, maybe take action if they weren't doing that anyway. So, yeah, so those are the big things with reminder messages. The other thing you can do, and I know you see this is all within in the flow itself, but the other thing you can do is using a rule to do a reminder message. So, for example, with a rule that you can have it where, like, let's say, and I have this set up for one of my clients where after like 18 hours of their last engagement, like with her sales funnel, getting people to opt in for either a 5-day challenge that's happening or the wait list for the 5-day challenge. So no matter what, I want to have that as like the catch-all fence to get them to opt in if they have not yet been sent that. So that's to keep in mind. If you have, as you build your chatbot, you have different directions with your different chatbot funnels. And like, let's say in one of those funnels, you have that 5-day challenge, as this example is, offering them to opt in for that. You want to make sure that you have the ability for your bot to know that it was already sent to them. So that's really just as simple as adding a tag saying, like 5-day challenge info sent. And then when you are setting up your rule of, and it's this date time-based trigger. So this is where I just say, like 18 hours, or you can even do 23 hours. So right up to the end of when you can message them after their last interaction in Instagram, or you can do Messenger. And then also that the tag isn't, I don't know if I sent it there. We'll just put that. So if let's say this tag is saying that the info was sent to them, then you want to you can then send them a flow, so start a flow. And then you choose the flow that you want to send. So this is great to try to keep people engaged. One thing you can do is have this as your last ditch effort to get them to opt in to a subscription list. Or if they haven't provided their email yet, then to do that. That would be also where you can say, like email is unknown. And then that way you could send a message just trying to last ditch effort, trying to collect their email address. And then also like with the subscription list, like I was mentioning, you can have a subscription list. If you're wanting to get people to opt into a list, if they haven't opted in before, then you want to use this one. For this one, this is if they've opted in, and because you can send a message using the subscription list once every 24 hours. So like, let's say you've sent that out already, then it wouldn't be available to them, but they are subscribed to the messenger list. So this one would be like isn't, and then whatever your list is, and then be able to send them the opt-in for that. So this using a rule is really helpful to apply to your whole entire bot, like everything, versus that flow that was very specific to that lead magnet, for example, in that instance. Just make sure that you have checks and balances in place, because it is, and you'll see, sometimes, people get sent the same opt-in twice or 2 different ways, and they're like, I already said no, or I already opted into that. And so you want to try and make sure that you have everything kind of set up where it will send relevant messages based off of, if they've received it yet or not. So anyways, that's kind of just a dive in deep with reminder messages and how important they are. Does anybody have any questions regarding utilizing reminder messages in your flows, or anything along those lines that around with the chatbot and getting people through to your call to action?
Everybody's been so quiet. They're just like soaking it in.
And if there's no questions, that's even that's great too. I mean, hopefully I was able to be pretty straightforward, and it makes a lot of sense. So yeah,
No, nothing.
okay,
Amazing.
yeah, that's fine with me.
Oh, goodness.
Trying to think if there's anything else around the topic to keep in mind. The only other thing is with the messenger or messaging list, like the messenger and Instagram DM list, that you need to keep in mind. It's super annoying. Um, so let's say you send somebody the opt-in for the messenger list, and or I guess I deleted it. That's right already, but go back. Let's say they get the opt-in, this messenger list opt-in that they can click on the get messages. Let's say they forget to click on it, um or whatever, they get distracted. And then later on down the line, they are interested in getting updates. So, like let's say for that VIP list I was mentioning earlier, like someone says, "Oh, you send them like, hey, you want to be part of my VIP list to get tips and tricks," and they don't click it. But let's say down the line, a day later, they say something, and you're like, "Oh, you should opt into the VIP list." Well, Facebook or Meta says you can only send an opt-in list to somebody once every 7 days. So it's super annoying because even if you try to send it again, it won't send. Or if it'll send like the first message. So like, let's say if you say, click get messages below to opt in, it'll send this message, but it won't send the opt-in request. And so people will be like, I don't see a get messages button. And it's super frustrating because I understand why they have implemented this because they don't want people spamming people with opting into the list, I guess. But so keep that in mind that you can only send it once every 7 days. So what I usually do is I just say, hey, scroll up to such and such, like earlier this, today or yesterday, and click the get messages button there. So keep that in mind. It's not a glitch. It's sadly how it should function, but it's also where if they haven't clicked it, which you can, through conditions, see if they've clicked it, that you send them a reminder message, soon after as a reminder to, hey, make sure you click the get messages button above. So I've seen that help for sure.
Well,
Oh, Laura
Laura,
says I think it's quiet because it's saying it's disabled. Oh,
Laura, thank God. Listen, guys, it's been a busy day, okay? I've turned the chat on, by the way.
no worries.
I don't know why they just don't let me have that on at the beginning. It's so
Yeah,
frustrating.
that is weird.
So she says, do you have any pro suggestions for delivering a coupon for a customer to take into a local business? Oh, Mackenzie knows all about local business.
Yes, I do chatbots for a lot of local businesses, including restaurants. So what I do, for example, like with the restaurant, is I have a birthday coupon. Birthday campaigns are amazing when you connect them with ads because this specific restaurant, I started a birthday campaign in November of 2017 and I have not touched it. It runs at $5 a day, every single day. And it's just running nonstop. It's amazing because it shows it to a new audience every single week of somebody whose birthday is within the next week. So what they have to do is bring in the coupon. So what you can do is just have um, the message where you like say, bring the, oh my gosh, or show the coupon below to your server, for example, is a restaurant. And then you have the image, and then for them to redeem it, then you say there's two ways you can do it. So you can do where the person redeems it, like self redeems, or you can have it, depending on the type of business, have a code. So you could have the code on the image, or you can have a code in the text. And then again, depending on the business, where they have it in their point of sale system, where they can just plug that number in or a coupon code in their system where it will give them that discount. And along those lines, with that, you can take it to the next step and have single-use coupon codes that each person will have their own, and that way, they can only redeem it one time. So that's how there's that. The benefit of that is a one-time redemption. But if it's just they're bringing it in to show, then they just show the coupon on their phone, and then they can say, click the redeem button below to redeem. So here's another pro tip. Just because I've had to deal with this and figure it out and with people. People will just start clicking buttons. Like, people will opt in for the coupon and they'll click redeem right after they opt in at 2 o'clock in the morning. They're not reading, they're just clicking buttons. So usually then what I do is I say, are you sure you want to redeem it? It can only be redeemed once, and they say yes. And then that way it will make sure that they're not accidentally redeeming it, because that's the most annoying thing is someone responds saying, oh, I didn't mean to redeem this. It's like, gosh dang it, because it messes with your stats and everything. So having that two-factor, or they have to double opt in or opt out, or whatever, that's really helpful to make it so they will only click it once. So that's one way to do it that way. If you have a coupon though where it doesn't matter how many times they come in and use it, then you can just have it where it's just the coupon and they just have to show it. But the other thing is making sure, obviously, with the business, that with how they want to track, or how well they track. For example, this restaurant client, he really doesn't care about KPIs as much as I do. So it's kind of difficult, but I know some business owners that they are wanting to make sure to the T that everything's tracked. So making sure that that system is set up properly where you can accurately track how many of the coupons were redeemed. The other thing that you can do, and I do this afterwards, is then I just ask them with the user input. For example, and this is self-reporting too. So this is mainly just for me. I asked them what was the total cost or total ticket price. So then that way I can kind of get an idea of okay, well, for this birthday campaign, we spent X amount of money this month, and self-reporting, this is what they replied with. And so, that would just be a number. You want to do a number because that way it can add up, or you can put it in as a conversion with a number. The only thing is, for example, in the restaurant client bot of mine, I say, please reply with number only. And because a lot of times they'll put in the dollar sign, for example, for 2251, reply with 2251. So the funny thing is, with me putting it, this is actually what I say in there, which for instructions saying, okay, this is what you need to do. You know how many 2251 responses I get because they don't know or they weren't paying attention. But again, it is self-reporting. So keep that in mind. If you're having the user self-report, it's not going to be 100% accurate. So that's where, if you can, from the client, be able to have some sort of redemption connection, for example, with the single-use code, that would be ideal. But if not, at least you can get an idea. And then the other thing you can do is, with this, is a conversion event. And then that's where you can have the event be offer redeemed, and then you can put in the value. And this is based off of this custom field that you save it to. And you can just put it here. And then you can track and see, okay, this is what, how many people redeemed, what day they redeemed. But again, it is self-reporting. So keeping that in mind. So awesome. All right. Any other questions? Looks like we got a few more minutes. Anybody have anything else in the chat or in Q&A? Now we've got the chat open.
How do your clients, do they normally give away something for the restaurant? Just like a drink or a dessert, or how do they normally do it so it makes
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, so it depends on like we've done gift card giveaways, also done like buy one get one free um offers. What's done really well, and I actually haven't done this in a while, but is doing like gift card giveaways because and then everybody who opts in, then you have this list, right? And you build it for a week, week and a half for the contest, and then you send them and you get them to opt into that messenger list, right? So that way you can send them out a message, letting them know if they're the winner. So of course they're going to click that because they want to know. Then anybody who is not the winner, and in terms of picking the winner, I just randomly pick. I just scroll through and I just pick somebody. Usually also I put it into a Google sheet so I can it's easier to scroll through. But then you just pick the winners, and then those who didn't win, you can send them saying, "Hey, sorry you didn't win, but here's the consolation prize. You get a coupon for XYZ or whatever." The other way you can do that is you can give them a coupon after they opt in. The only downside to that is people, depending on the business, if it's like an e-commerce business and they're entering in to win a product, and let's say you give them a coupon to buy pretty much the same product at like 20% off, most people are going to hold out to see if they win or not before they buy. So if you do offer that, then when you announce the winners, then you can just give the coupon as, remind them that they had that coupon that expires a week after, you know, uh, the winners announced. So yeah, so keeping that in mind. But and then people get all butt hurt. Oh, I didn't win. I never win anything. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Thanks for telling me your life story that you never win anything. So, it's always comical hearing people do that. But yeah, so doing giveaways is always great. Just making sure that the item that you're giving away is related to the business. The worst is I had a client insurance. I'm never working with insurance again. There, it's the most boring and hard to get anybody to do anything. But again, because it's so hard to get people to do anything, he was offering an iPad giveaway. So many
Oh
people opting in
no. Oh
for
no.
an iPad, but they weren't interested in insurance whatsoever. And I'm just like, you need to offer something that's related to your business, because then that way you're not just getting a bunch of freebie seekers and tire kickers. So of course, when the winner was announced and said, hey, if you'd like to schedule a time to, you know, improve or change your insurance, it was cricket. So
Right.
making sure that your offer is related. So
Yeah, it's
let's
a
get
good
the
point.
Oscar asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
We've seen people do that, through the years with services or like courses or books or whatever, and it just doesn't, yeah, you have to tie it. You can't just have
Oh
someone
yeah.
follow your account and then do it. I don't know. Yeah, there's all kinds of issues with that. But yes, I
Mm-hmm.
100% agree. Make it make sense to them. That way they're more motivated to actually sign up for the thing that you
Exactly.
really want them to. Yeah, so
Exactly.
you, like you were saying, Oscar was asking about how this can be offered as a service. Do people generally charge monthly, or do they do a setup fee and then not charge monthly, or how do people generally sell chatbot marketing as a service?
Yeah. So, like I said, I've had a chatbot agency since 2017. And it varies. It depends on the client. Monthly retainers are great. Especially for clients that don't know about chatbot automation. You are the one that introduced it to them, and you just say, hey, I'm going to do marketing for you, that utilizes AI chatbots. AI is a buzzword now. That's great. It's crazy how much makes a difference. But just letting them know that you're going to be able to utilize chatbot marketing or conversational marketing, and then give them a retainer price. Like for example, my restaurant client, it's great. Actually, he's the best client ever because he really doesn't bother me much. I mean, we do. I mean, that sounds bad, but we do a lot of promos throughout the year every now and then. But with this birthday campaign, I don't have to do a whole lot, and then I just reply to people who come into the chat. So that's a lot of times it is that monthly retainer. As long as you're providing the service that makes sense, that you're bringing them an ROI. On the flip side, I have another client who has a podcast, and I'm charging her monthly because I'm going through and getting people going through the chat, making sure people are getting the information I send out, podcast announcements every week when she has a new podcast episode. But, and I completely understand if she feels like she's not getting an ROI or utilizing me, or it doesn't make sense to her necessarily as a business. And it's because she has no monetize, she's not monetizing her services at all. She doesn't have, besides her podcast. And I'm like, let's start a membership. Let's do a master class. Let's do something that we're bringing money in that it makes sense. So she's really at the beginning of her, I guess, business journey, and she's not quite sure. And part of me is just like, I don't know if I want to have her as a client anymore because we're not monetizing. I'm just sitting there. I feel like I'm just taking her money and not doing anything besides sending out reminder messages, for, 1,500 bucks a month. It doesn't make sense, for her from my viewpoint either. But I am trying to help her get more, make it make sense, right? So in terms of pricing, it does depend on the business, and usually, I haven't niched down. Obviously, I have clients in so many different industries, but if you niche down into a specific industry, then it is a little bit easier for you to just copy. I mean, you can create templates with these and then just say, hey, I'm going to start, get more clients in a specific industry, and then just be able to install the template and, start ads and then run from there. And that's the other thing too, is finding out what their what type of traffic sources that they have. That client of mine, for example, that I was saying, that has a podcast, she doesn't run ads or anything. So it's all organic. So, if you can run and have, you're providing the traffic too, like they're also paying you for Facebook or Instagram ads, then that's more beneficial. If it is organic and they don't really have that great of a traffic source, then you're just building a bot and hoping that they can send people to the bot, make it worth their while. So
Yeah, it makes it way harder to justify, would be my guess.
yeah, I mean, I can build an
Yeah.
amazing bot, but if you're not going to send people to it and you're not going to allow me to run ads, or I also had a client that was a massage place. He's like, oh, no, I know how to run ads. I'm like, okay, great. He sucked. Like, there was nobody who came in. I'm like, and then he's asking me. That's the other annoying thing, is the clients who scope creep. I'm like, hey, can you take a look at my ads? I'm like, you're not paying me for it. You said no. Like, what the heck, man? You want me to just come in and say, hey, can you give me a little massage?
Right,
I'm
totally,
not gonna pay for it. So yeah, so definitely having, I mean, the best clients I've had are ones that are like hands off. They're either too busy to know how to do this themselves, or they just don't know about really any marketing, or aren't doing marketing well themselves, but they do have a viable product or service. Then it makes it a little bit easier to make that successful. But I've also done it where they already know about anybody that I do like one-off projects. They already know about ManyChat, or they know about chatbots and they know they want one, but they either, usually they know enough, but they don't know how to do a lot of the advanced stuff, and they just want it built and handed over to them, and I say, okay, here you go. And then usually, it's a one-time thing, and I just build it and give it to them. And I've had instances too where I build it, hand it over, and a client comes back and says, just kidding, I don't know how to do this, and I don't want to learn how to do this anymore. I thought I did. Can you please do it for me? And then I have another client that I built it all for her, and then she comes back once every month or two and say, hey, can you build this flow for me really quick? What would you charge? So one-off thing. So it's really kind of custom, and sometimes it's just random. So
one of the cool things it seems like too is that in this world, like utilizing templates, especially if you niche down, but even if you don't have to have a large team to deliver, right? Like you could have a pretty small operation if that's the goal. And I think
yeah,
that's a nice, because not everybody wants to have a gigantic team. A lot of times, people just want to have a very small
exactly.
crew. Yeah.
And I had a VA for a long time, actually, somebody who lives in my same city, and she was going to college, and so I was having her. I taught her chatbots. She actually went through my course, and so she learned chatbots. And then I would just have her mainly cover live chat, some of the monotonous stuff, So she just cover my live chat, and then also if there was, for example, like the restaurant, I'd say, hey, can you, build this campaign really quick, that I'd tell her what it is, and then I would look it over and stuff to make sure everything was set up properly. But it would save me a lot of time. So
Right.
been about a year since she's like, oh, I completed school and she got a job in her industry of what she was going to school for. And I'm like, okay, I'll just do it myself. Yeah, it's I realize now how much time she saved me. So you can easily get away with having one
Yeah.
VA, helping you even with live chat. I mean, live chat can take, if you offer that as part of the service, which is nice because then you can also see, looking
Problems.
at live chat and how people, yeah, exactly, see how
Right.
people, it's like, hey, this is sending this screen. I'm like, oh man, what's going on here? And so I can go in and fix it and stuff. Um, but so that's helpful, being able to see that, and being able to, have full uh, I guess, run of like, hey, here's all the services I'm going to provide, which will include coverage of live chat, or at least letting them, alerting them of, the client if there's anything that they need to respond to.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So,
For sure.
yeah,
But it's one of those services. It's funny, years ago when you got started and when this was kind of the hot thing, I think it
yeah,
was newish on the scene right around that time, right? In 2017.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's brand new.
it's a lot of things that come onto the scene don't last. This has been something that has gone obviously in waves, I'm sure, of popularity, but it's definitely
Mm-hmm.
stuck around. And so if you can, Oscar, just a little bit of advice, if you could pair this with something like lead gen or even organic content creation or appointment setting on the back end or whatever, it makes it so much stronger. Because then you really are owning, like you were saying, Mackenzie, you can really kind of own that traffic source too. And so you can point to a number and be like, see, because it's one thing, like you said, it's one thing to build a thing. If you're working with companies or people that have budget to throw
Yeah,
around to build a cool thing, a pretty thing, a fun thing. But when you build a thing that brings in money, then you're gonna have a client for a lot longer. In my experience, anyway,
exactly.
they stick around.
Yeah, and it could be even, if and I've worked with clients too who they already have an ad buyer. So then I would just work directly with them and help, make that connection, with the
Yep.
chatbot because a lot of times ad buyers don't, they don't create chatbot
Right.
specific ads.
Yep.
But also if you can connect it with, you say messenger or conversational marketing, but then you can also say, hey, also do email marketing with it, right? So you can combine those two together because they are kind of synergistic where you can use them both at the same time where you send them all DMs, but then you also send them emails, maybe depending on how what they do within DMs and stuff. So it's really about a lot of it is automation. I mean, I have one client that I am like the tech person now on her team because with setting up stuff even on the website and just because with chatbots and with Zapier, I'm not a computer science person. I know a little bit of coding just from using chatbots and Zapier and stuff and having to figure some things out. But it's kind of positioned me where I have this experience, not just with chatbots, but with other things that, even if the chatbot, let's say, they're running the traffic and let's say that, they're not doing a good job with it or something, the chatbot's still there helping, to provide information. It's still super valuable, but maybe it's not converting as a direct ROI. I'm also doing these other things like helping with email, helping with tech and stuff. So it's like I've intertwined myself in a lot of the systems where if she's like, oh, I don't want the chatbot anymore, it's like, okay, well, then it's also probably going to be bye bye with all the other stuff. So
Right, right. It
it's
becomes valuable. Yeah, even more valuable. Yeah, for
exactly.
sure.
So
Yeah, which is key.
cool.
But all right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Definitely.
Well, thanks,
Yeah. And if
everybody.
you guys, have any other questions, feel free to reach out.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.